Morning, convening our House Committee on Transportation today, Thursday, February 19th, 2026, for our 9 a.m. posted agenda here today at the Hawaii State Capitol. We have several different measures before us. So if we could begin, please, I'd like to start with our first agenda item, HB 1588, relating to Department of Transportation, establishes a noise detection program in the Department of Transportation for the installation of noise detection cameras for the enforcement of noise control laws. Vice Chair for testimony.
Department of Transportation in support.
Hi, good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. This is Robin Shishida with HDOT and stand by our submitted testimony and support. Thank you.
Thank you. Department of Health with comments.
Chair, Vice Chair, Matt Crono, Department of Health, Department of Health Services, standing on our written comments. Just want to say we're happy to work with Department of Transportation. We just have some suggestions about the bill itself. Thank you.
Thank you. Honolulu City Council Member Radiant Cordero in support. Springboard Hospitality in support. Citizens Against Noise in support. HMSA in support. And 11 individuals in support. Anyone online or in person wishing to testify on HB 1588?
Thank you. Deputy Shishido,
Yes,
did you have a chance to look at Department of Health's proposed additions to the statutes that would be potentially monitored under this proposed law?
no, I didn't look
Okay.
at it.
If you can look at it before the end of the hearing, please, and let me know. And then I know you folks didn't introduce this bill, but is there any, so it's going to finance next. So what is the fiscal impact or fiscal appropriation that would be needed to stand up the program? I know you folks are piloting it right now.
Yeah, in the pilot, we putting up 10 locations and installation and the software consultant costs. I believe for that 10 locations, it was about 2 million, 2 or
Okay,
2.5 million. And we'll double check and see how much comes out per camera, and I'm sure there'll be some inflation and so forth, but
right. Okay, if you can let me know about DOH's proposed additions before the end of hearing.
okay.
Any other questions?
Same question for
Rep
you.
More Oka.
Good morning. Do you folks have an anticipated decibel level you guys are shooting for on these alert devices?
Yeah, so it'd be in accordance with I think Department of Health has some decibel standards, if it's in residential, commercial and so forth, so it would be in alignment with that.
Okay, and with those decibels, are these devices, will they be, when they're tracking the noise, is there a way that these devices can pinpoint exactly where the noise is coming from?
Yeah, so far in the pilot, I believe we have 8 cameras. 2 of them have been up for several months now, and from there, yeah, it takes a picture and it can pinpoint, like if it's the motorcycle that's making a loud noise. So it's pretty accurate. It can find the vehicle.
Okay, thank you.
To Rep More Oka's point too, if Department of Health or you folks able to comment on what the decibel, would you know off the top of your head?
Yes, would you like me to come up?
Can you come forward, please?
Chair, Vice Chair, Matt Crono again, Department of Health, Department of Health Services. We can't give you a strict number. Our regulations are actually not built for vehicular sources that way, which is why we're really happy to work with DOT in coming up with a number or approach. But I think if it points directly to our statutes right now and for enforceability, it is gonna create a little bit of difficulty for Department of Transportation because I can't tell you it's like 85 or 62 decibels.
Cause is it 95 for purpose of a police officer to cite for excessive noise on an audio system?
Yeah, I can't speak
95,
exactly what it
yeah.
is, but there is, right? So those types of vehicular source to or amplified noise like on a sidewalk or a street performer, and there's a little bit different. Department of Health's regulations are pointed at stationary mechanical sources, construction sources. So we do have kind of background, but we're kind of in the process too of right now really reviewing how we look at sound and noise pollution, so it's background plus some. So I think if this does move forward, we will be working with, Robin and others at DOT to come up with a workable solution, but our comment really was, as it points directly right now, it's not a clean number that probably makes it really enforceable.
Okay,
Thank you.
we're welcome.
Do you guys know that the number you guys are striving for? Because a couple of concerns that my office took was urban areas when they got deliveries. Now the deliveries with the towable forklifts, they got these reverse beepers, are they gonna be cited? So I would just like to see a number included in, I think it's a good bill, I really do. I would just like to see more definitive guidelines on it, because leaving it so vague would be, not good. Thank you.
No, I agree. Rep
Hi,
Cochran.
Mr. Corona. You folks have the 10 locations picked out? Are they all here on this island, or are you gonna?
Sorry, that would be for
Sorry.
DOT. Deputy Shishido.
Oh, okay, I thought, sorry.
You're good, thank you.
Thank
Oh,
you.
thanks.
Deputy, are you able to,
Yes.
are you able to
Morning.
tell us the potential the locations you folks are piloting now?
Yeah, we have it. I know we did one on H3 because there was reporting of a lot of drag
Right.
racing. So that's one location, and I don't know exact locations we have, but we can get it.
Yeah, if you're able to, and I can give it to the committee.
Okay.
I think, sorry, Chair.
Rep Cochran.
Do you know if anything on Maui though?
No, right now the pilot's on Oahu.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Members, any further questions? Thank you, Deputy. Okay, members, we went through next agenda item before us, HB 1696, relating to commercial driver's licenses, lowers the age of who may drive commercially within the state from 19 to 18. Repeals the requirement that only operates category 3 vehicles to qualify to drive commercially in the state, requires Department of Transportation to amend its rules to lower minimum age for a commercial driver's license. Vice Chair for testimony, please.
Department of Transportation in support.
Yep, Robert HDFT, stand by our submitted testimony and support. Thank you.
Thank you. City and County of Honolulu Department of Customer Services in support. Hawaii Transportation Association in support. Hi,
This
yeah.
time.
Good morning.
Aloha, good morning, I'm Tina Yomaki with the Hawaii Transportation Association, and we're in strong support, and we do stand on our testimony with the suggestion that added language be for those who are between the ages of 18 and 20-year-olds, have the companies that the companies are employing them have an additional minimum of 320 hours training time, as well as keeping a record.
Thank you. Hawaii Teamsters Local 996 in support. Hawaiian Council in support. Hawaii Logistics Services in support. Island Topsoil in support. And 5 individuals also in support. Anyone online or in person wishing to testify on HB 1696? Seeing none, Chair.
Thank you. Deputy Shishiro. Robin.
Yep.
So right now, the proposed bill rate is what we're trying to. It would allow only for interstate, right, not interstate, the licensing that we would be adopting.
Or interstate,
clarify.
only within Hawaii.
Yes, okay.
Yep.
Just to make that clear. Members, any other further questions? I do wanna thank several of the testifiers and testimony that came in through the bill, and I acknowledge, I'm grateful for the different support, and we can talk more during decision making. So for the next measure before us, any further questions? Seeing none, next agenda item HB 2333 relating to transportation. Authorizes Department of Transportation to designate airport special district zones with airports statewide, adds a new HRS section to help prevent unauthorized access and enhance security, effective 7/1/2026. Vice Chair for testimony.
Department of Transportation in support.
Morning, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee, Colonel Taguro, Department of Transportation for Airports. Stands on its written testimony in strong support of this. As you know, we have 15 airports statewide, 19.4 million enplanements, passenger enplanements a year. Majority of them obviously come from the 5 commercial airports. The intent of this bill is really to establish boundaries around our property lines. And with that, it'll enable the law enforcement agencies to do the proper enforcement to ensure not only the safety of passengers and employees, but it's really the perimeters around it for unauthorized individuals that may cause the airfields to be disrupted, causing another operational damage. We appreciate the support of the state as well as our city counterparts to ensure that we maintain aviation at its most efficient. Happy to answer questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy.
Thank you. Airlines for America in support. Blind Vendors Ohana Incorporated in support. Airlines Committee of Hawaii in support.
We'll stand on our testimony in strong support.
Thank you. City and County of Honolulu Department of Community Service in support.
Chair, Vice Chair Anton Crockett, Director of Department of Community Services. We stand on our written testimony in full support. Interagency cooperation that we have between the city and state is very important, so we strongly support this.
Thank you. And then members, that's the physical testimony. And one individual in support. Anyone online or in person wishing to testify on HB 2333?
Yeah, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee, Jake Foxley on behalf of Alaska Airlines, we stand in strong support. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else online or in person? Seeing none.
Thank you, Deputy Ortogoro. For the committee's understanding and background and knowledge, can you let us know what happens every time somebody enters the perimeter of the airport and what happens to the state?
Depends. It depends by circumstance, right? So let's focus on the terminal. If there's any altercation within the terminal, depending on where it's at, if it's a security checkpoint, TSA will stop, depending on what that situation is. And if it stops, then that means no passengers can get through the checkpoint. That just causes major delays. That's one aspect of it. We've had examples on the neighbor islands where unauthorized individuals around the airport, closer to the airfield, have started fires inadvertently or purposely, not sure. Those fires create smoke. Those smoke have a tendency, if it's thick, to then disrupt landings and departures. And so those cause delays, which in an airport, it's a very refined and efficient operation. So any delays caused can create a lot of havoc. Within the airport itself, just to give you an example, 2 years, 2023 to 2024, we had sheriffs had about 180 responses to different aspects of homeless activity. In 2025 alone, that number jumped up 198, so it doubled in 1 year. And these vary from public nuisance, indecent exposures, defecations. It can result in theft and shoplifting, automobile access, in some cases, as I mentioned, arson. Absolutely employee harassment. That's probably one of the more visible things, that when employees work at night and we have unauthorized individuals lurking or around the property that should not be there, it does end in some kind of assault, which is very concerning for our employees in the airport network, not just state employees. So these are things, and in some cases, homicides. Very few, but there's still that aspect. So defining and then of course thefts, right? Smart cards, you see them all around. Things of that nature that we want to be able to have a defined perimeter in a special district, so that law enforcement officers can have more authority to, with clear and concise objectives, to arrest if needed. Obviously, we're not going to arrest in the first offense unless it's very blatant. But it does allow penalties to be associated with that and the and action taken, so that's really the objective.
And anytime there's unauthorized entry into airfield, we get fined, correct?
That's correct, that's FAA Part 139, and so that's, there's no question about that.
Yeah.
So airfield into a security area, there's no question, we can do that today. So the question is more around the perimeters where there's nothing happening, but something could happen and some things that have happened. And of course, in the terminal, when you're checking in, things of that nature.
No, I just wanted for context. Members, any other questions? Rep. Cochran?
Yeah, hi, good morning, thank you. So I'm not sure if this is still happening, but 3 years ago, I was at baggage claim and a maintenance worker there told me that actually, this is when people were saying one-way tickets, people were sent here on one-way tickets. He said at least 6 per month, there are people that get off the plane and they would hide and live in the airport. So these weren't people from the outside coming in, they were already in it. And then they get busted, you know, and then they leave and go into Waikiki and become homeless on the streets there. So how many of these 198 were that type of you know, individuals? Is this true? I guess is my first question, because this is what one of the workers had told me. I never was able to verify.
I can get you a specific number, we get reports from both our Allied Universal Airport Security as well as sheriffs, I can give you a specific number, but I'm glad you raised that, Representative. We've been having some discussions more recently with our city counterparts. We are aware of that very issue of one-way tickets. And while it's paradise, while it's great to be in Hawaii, if they have no address to go to, those are flags. And so we need to work with our city counterparts and the Office of Community Services to find ways so that we can detect them and deter it or return them. But more importantly, just find them help. The objective is to people that need assistance, we should provide them with that. But in the end, if they don't want to have assistance, then they should go back to where they were.
Okay, and Sarah, follow up?
No.
And so this designated boundary that you're talking about, are you saying lands that are not state lands then?
No, what we're requesting is within the airport property lines today. And we do have them designated.
Right.
Most are contiguous, some like in Honolulu, there are some parcels that are outside of that, like on Lagoon Drive as an example, not specifically attached to the airport, but in that vicinity. So that's what we're asking for, anything that is airport property.
Okay, alright, thank you.
Thank you. And then Deputy, one more question. So if we keep the effective date, obviously we're gonna defect it, should the committee move it, but you folks already have a proposed idea of what the boundaries would be and be ready to move it out?
Yes, sir.
Members, any further questions? Rep. Moroka?
So just following on what Chair said, if this thing goes, this is a great bill, if it goes, are you folks already manned security wise to enact it?
For Honolulu Airport, yes. For the outside airports that are more general aviation, we'd have to work on that. There's no assigned sheriff to say Dillingham, Kauai. For all the commercial airports, we're ready to.
Thank you.
Thank you. Members, any further questions? Seeing none, let's move on to our next agenda item before us. HB 213 HD1 relating to economic development establishes a Hilo Kona transportation pilot program within the Department of Business, Economic Development and Tourism to study, plan, evaluate, implement, and trial transportation routes and services connecting Hilo and Kona. Vice Chair for testimony.
Department of Business, Economic Development and Tourism with comments. County of Hawaii Department of Research and Development in support. Hawaii Transportation Association in support. Thank you. And 2 individuals in support. Anyone online or in person wishing to testify on HB 2138 HD1?
Thank you, members. There's not really anybody to ask questions though, so we'll move on to our next agenda item today, which is HB 2332 relating to Commercial Port Administration. Renames the Harbors Division of the Department of Transportation to the Commercial Ports Division and distinguishes between the terms harbor and commercial port throughout the statutes. Vice Chair for testimony.
Department of Transportation in support.
Aloha Chair, Vice Chair, Dre Khalili, Deputy Director of Transportation for HDOT. I think, in 1993, when small boat harbors were separated from DOT, it's been 30 years since then, and there's still a lot of confusion as to what is a DOT facility compared to a small boat and recreational facility. And so I think this bill is a long time coming in helping the public as well as other folks across our state government to clearly distinguish between the two facilities. We often get inquiries about activities happening at a facility that is not ours. And so it's really I think a good way in figuring out, what is a commercial port where we are discharging cargo and we are supporting cruise passenger operations as compared to a facility that is intended for recreational use and for smaller vessels. Available for any questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you. DLNR with comments. The Maritime Group in support.
No, not present.
Not present.
Oh, present, I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the committee, aloha kakakiaka. My name is William Anderson, the managing partner of the Maritime Group, and I stand by my submitted written testimony in support of HB 2332. I would like to just share some comments, and this would be sort of in addition to what the Deputy Director just shared with the committee. On the bill, we view that it modernizes and clarifies Hawaii statutes governing commercial ports by consistently defining and consolidating authority under DOT. The measure, we feel, better aligns with the terminology across state law to eliminate outdated references, reduces ambiguity, and strengthens administrative accountability. It is my understanding that the legislative intent is to improve governance clarity, enhance operational efficiency, and support long-term planning for Hawaii's commercial harbor system. Although technical in nature, the bill, we feel, strengthens the statutory foundation of a port system that is critical to the state's economic stability and supply chain resilience. Appreciate the opportunity to testify. Mahalo for your consideration.
Thank you. And we also received testimony in support from Hawaii Harbor's Users Group. Anyone online or in person wishing to testify on HB 2332? Seeing none, Chair.
Thank you, Deputy Director Khalili.
Yes, aloha Chair.
Morning. I know that I was reading the justification sheet, but I think from other conversations you folks have had, this could potentially allow you folks to stay more competitive for federal grants.
I don't know the extent to which this name change is going to secure additional federal funding for us. But I do think that the distinction and the clarification on what it is that we manage is certainly just going to be helpful in general in all accounts. And if so, then with federal funding also.
And then I know there was early discussion of repealing the act that transferred small boat harbors to DLNR to move them back to the oversight of DOT. I know that's not happening this year, but should it happen in the future, those would still be then codified as small boat harbors? Or will we have two definitions?
No, so I think what we are proposing is a distinction between the term harbor, which is really a geographical feature, right? It's a bay, it is a protected water area, and then a port is developed and improved for the purpose of commercial activity, specifically the movement of cargo and supporting much larger ships. And so should there be a future where all harbors and ports are under the jurisdiction of DOT, I think this distinction would be even more helpful to separate the responsibilities and authorities between the two facilities.
Okay, thank you, Deputy, for clarifying. Members, any questions?
Yeah, sure.
Rep. Cochran?
Thank you. So I'm trying to think out Loud, Lahaina Boat Harbor, Ma'alai Harbor, and Mala Boat Ramp, they all do commercial in the sense of snorkel trips, sunset cruises, things of that nature. So are those uses out of these small boat harbors and ramps considered this commercial word you're trying to delineate?
I don't think our concern terribly is the term commercial, it is the term port, right? A facility that is specifically purpose-built and developed for commercial cargo
Mhm.
and cruise ship passengers. The other facilities that you've described, which fall under the jurisdiction of the Department of Land and Natural Resources, are not purpose-built ports. So it's really the term port
Okay.
that we are concerned by. And commercial port, I think, is a term used across the industry globally, which is why we've chosen to adopt it in this bill.
Okay, thanks for that clarification. And Chair, and a
Yes, of course,
follow-up?
Chair Falcon.
And you mentioned cruise ships, so Lahaina Small Boat Harbor has been receiving cruise ships also.
Sure. However,
So
what
still-
actually comes into the Lahaina Small Boat Harbor is a tender. It is not the actual ship.
Oh, okay,
So-
gotcha. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're right. Okay, yep. Okay, thank you for the clarifications. Mahalo, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you. Members, any other questions? Seeing none, we go on to our next agenda item, HB 2283, relating to port pilotage, clarifies the consulting role responsibilities of the Department of Transportation in the Department of Commerce and Consumer Affairs development and implementation of pilot licensure standards, requirements, and criteria. Vice Chair for testimony.
Department of Transportation and Support.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, and members. Dre Kalili, Deputy Director for Transportation for Harbors again. We are in strong support. We understand that this is a DCCA requested bill. They are responsible for the licensure of our port pilots. However, I think there is great value in having this consultative relationship between DOT, which oversees the facilities, the port facilities, and then DCCA that oversees the licensure for pilots to operate in the facility. So I think this is a very good way to advance port safety, and we're available for questions. Thank you.
Thank you. DCCA Port Pilot Program and Support.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, Danny Chow, Program Specialist for TCCA. The department stands on its written testimony in support of this bill.
Thank you. Matson Navigation Company and Support. Hawaii Harbors Users Group in support. Hawaii Gas in support. Hawaii Pilots Association in support.
Good morning, Vice Chair and Chair Chiba. Sinclair Brown with the Hawaii Pilots Association. We stand on our submitted testimony in support of this bill. Any concern or questions? Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone online or in person wishing to testify on HB 2283?
Yes. Again, this is William Anderson, the managing partner of the Maritime Group.
Please
Go ahead.
proceed.
Yes, I stand on my submitted written testimony in support of the bill. And again, would like to just share some comments, and this is more on a personal nature for me, since my father back in 1979 actually established what is now the Hawaii Pilots Association. He was one of the three founders. And this bill, we feel, further strengthens Hawaii's port pilotage framework by formally incorporating the operational expertise that DOT Harbors has into the Department of Commerce and Commercial Affairs development and implementation of the port pilot licensing standards and requirements. The bill further, we feel, also promotes improved interagency coordination, ensures that pilot license standards, examination service levels, and related decisions are informed by HDOT's firsthand working knowledge of our harbor operations, vessel traffic, and safety conditions. And by that, by aligning these regulatory oversights with operational realities, the bill enhances maritime safety, supports efficient vessel movement, and reinforces the reliability of Hawaii's supply chain without imposing additional physical burdens. Again, mahalo for your consideration, and respectfully urge the committee's passage of the bill.
Thank you. Anyone else online or in person wishing to testify on HB 2283? Seeing none, Chair.
Thank you. Members, any questions? Rep. Cochran,
Maybe I'm just wondering if this is gonna add
DOT or
more
DCCA?
cost.
It's DCCA's bill.
Yeah,
DCCA,
maybe
you wanna come
DCCA. Sorry, excuse me. Hi, morning, thanks for being here. So is this gonna add more cost,
To my
fees?
that's to my understanding, I don't believe so, but I can get back to you on that. I don't think we have any
Should not.
costs in this bill.
Okay, I mean to the harbor people, to the,
To my understanding,
Or-
I don't
no.
believe
Okay.
so, yeah.
alright, I just saw the word fees and thought there'd be
I think that's
Additional.
I think
current,
the fees for placement share pay.
okay, alright, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Members, any further questions? Seeing none, let's take a brief recess, please. Thank you. Reconvening our Committee on Transportation with our continued business before us. HB 2217 relating to identification allows applicants for driver's permit, driver's license, or civil identification cards to request a non-apparent disability notion on their permit, license, or identification card by share for testimony.
Disability and Communication Access Board in support. Not present. Hawaii State Council on Developmental Disabilities in opposition.
Aloha chairs, committee members, my name is Jay Slover, I'm with the Hawaii State Council on Developmental Disabilities, here for Dane Bartoldas, our executive administrator. We'll stand on our written testimony in opposition. We just wanted to highlight, we were not opposing the intent of this measure, which is to keep people with IDD safe, especially in emergency situations. We simply just wanted to highlight there's other avenues to do this. We have more data-driven, private ways of doing it, like Smart 911, which is also voluntary. It gives actually much more information. It's also voluntary, I think, as I already mentioned, but it can also provide specific disability information. And a lot of times when you have just an identification card, I mean, I could stand here for an hour telling you all the different types of disabilities, the hidden disabilities, what they are, how they're different from each other. So it's very broad, and that's just what we want to highlight. And we're here for questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Attorney General's Office with comments on Zoom.
Present.
Oh, sorry.
Good morning, Chair Kila, Vice Chair Miyake, members of the committee. The purpose of this bill is to provide law enforcement officers and first responders with notice that an individual has a non-apparent disability as indicated on the individual's driver's license or identification card. The goal is to provide law enforcement and first responders with information that will facilitate communication and avoid unnecessary escalation in encounters with high-functioning individuals who have hidden conditions that are not readily apparent. So the Department of the Attorney General supports the intent of the bill, but we have some concerns regarding what specific non-apparent disabilities will be allowed to be noted on a driver's license or identification card. The department recommends that the non-apparent disabilities be limited to medically recognized conditions to prevent people from requesting that any self-identified condition be noted on their driver's license or identification card. Without limiting the non-apparent disabilities to medically recognized disabilities, government agencies will be unable to train their personnel to respond appropriately to every self-identified condition, whether medically recognized or not. In addition, given the wide range of medically recognized non-apparent disabilities, like I think was testified to earlier, that could potentially be requested to be disclosed, the department also recommends that limiting the allowable non-apparent disabilities to specific medically recognized conditions. For example, Virginia identified specific non-apparent disabilities that could be noted on licenses and identification cards and defined non-apparent disability. Without identifying specific disclosable non-apparent disabilities or defining non-apparent disability, it could be difficult for agencies to train personnel to be able to respond appropriately in encounters with the public. And that would also potentially lead to impaired communication and unnecessary escalation. Thank you for the opportunity to testify. I'm available for questions.
Thank you. City and County of Honolulu Department of Customer Services with comments. Responsive Caregivers of Hawaii in opposition. Indivisible Disabilities Association in support. Individual Joe Edwards in support on Zoom.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, committee members. My name is Joelle Edwards. I'm a community advocate and also the community engagement coordinator here on Kauai for HCAN. I, number one, stand by my written testimony, but I want to say I deeply appreciate the work and passion behind the creation of this bill by a local Kauai parent advocating not only for her child, but for others living with invisible disabilities. I'm equally grateful for the heartfelt testimony submitted by fellow parents and patient advocates. I do want to say that the concerns raised by the Attorney General regarding medical certification are thoughtful and compelling, and I think that it kind of ensures that the program is structured in a way that is both protective and workable. So those amendments, I think, are something that you can take into consideration. And I just want to thank you for your time. Mahalo.
Thank you, Joelle. Individual Christy Arias in support on Zoom.
Not present.
Not present. We received 38 testimonies in support from individuals and 1 with comments. Anyone online or in person wishing to testify on HB 2217? Seeing none.
Thank you. Department of Attorney General, please. So I understand your folks' testimony, but I was hoping if you were able to, did you have a chance to potentially look over what the department, the Disability Communication Access Board submitted to the
No, I
committee?
have not.
Okay. So they're kind of similar in nature to yours, but I think, is it, to your point, are we trying to not put the burden, or do we open ourselves up to liability going down the potential slippery slope?
Yeah, this is a tricky situation, right, because I think we all agree that the intent of the bill is a good one. I think one thing that we tried to keep in mind is that this bill only addresses what's to be disclosed, and it doesn't address sort of the other half of the equation, which is what are first responders supposed to do once they get this information. So the way we tried to think about it was, is there anything that we can put in the bill that would help first responders be able to respond appropriately so things don't escalate unnecessarily? So we thought that, looking at what some other states did, that maybe, kind of limiting and defining exactly which non-apparent disabilities we're gonna allow would allow agencies to then train their personnel to be able to appropriately respond, which then would, hopefully prevent, escalation and, even injury to the public. So that was sort of where we were coming from.
No, I appreciate that. Members, any questions?
Yeah, sorry,
Rep.
Chair.
Cochran? For AGs?
No, I appreciate your comments and amendments,
Okay.
but I think for the other
you're
gentleman,
good.
he mentioned 9, Daintree Bartolda. Yeah, representing you, sorry, hi. I just wanted to hear a little more, you mentioned something about Smart 911.
Okay, so Smart 911 is a voluntary system where you can include additional information into the Smart 911, like into 911 essentially. So when if I'm Joe Blow and I call 911 and I've created this smart account and I'm reported as, being in an accident or anything like that, a whole report will pull up of information that I've inputted. So medical conditions, disabilities, it's hard to get through my back gate, here's the code if I'm unconscious, things like that. Right now, Oahu has it and Maui County is implementing it. And then there is another bill going through the legislature to try to address statewide and what the best system is going forward.
Okay, so then when a law enforcement pulls someone, they can retrieve information from this, is that?
They should be able
The
to,
intent is.
as long as they have the name. And that was kind of one of our other concerns, which is that if the only way a law enforcement agent is gonna look at the ID card, well, what most likely if the person, for example, people with autism are nonverbal a lot of the time, and they're gonna be non-compliant because they don't really know how to be compliant. And so if a situation is gonna escalate, it's gonna escalate before they even see the ID card that tells the officer that they have a disability.
Okay, alright, well, thank you for that. Thanks,
Members,
Chair.
you're welcome. Members, further questions? Seeing none, I'd like to move on to our next agenda item before us, 2059 relating to emergency services, exempts emergency medical service personnel from commercial driver's license requirements, amends the definition of authorized emergency vehicle under state traffic code to replace ambulances with emergency medical service vehicles. Vice Chair for testimony.
Department of Transportation in support.
Yep, DOT stands by, submitted testimony in support. Thank you.
Thank you. Department of Health with comments. City and County of Honolulu Department of Human Services in support. City and County of Honolulu Emergency Services Department in support.
Chair, Vice Chair, Ian Sankey, Deputy Director, Emergency Services, stand by our testimony in the bill.
Thank you. UPW in support. Anyone online or in person wishing to testify on HB 2059? Take that, Chair.
Thank you. City and County of Honolulu. So regarding HB 2059, did you have a chance to potentially see the offered amendments from Department of Health?
Yes.
And
We're
your
good with
folks'
it.
position?
Yeah.
Okay. Members, further concerns? Sorry, we're not voting. Questions? Thank you.
You're welcome.
Members, next measure before us, HB 2057, making appropriation to Department of Information Technology of the City and County of Honolulu appropriates money as a grant and aid to the City and County of Honolulu's Department of Information Technology upgrade driver's license and motor vehicle application system. Vice Chair for testimony.
Department of Transportation and support.
DOT stands by, submitted testimony and support, thank you.
Thank you. City and County of Honolulu Department of Information Technology and support.
Thank you, Chairman, Vice Chair, members of the committee. My name is Brian McKee. I'm the Director of IT and CIO of the City and County of Honolulu. We're here basically asking for your support for funding. When I got in this chair, I found out that the Customer Service Division has a COBOL system. I don't know if anybody knows what COBOL is, but it's the same technology stack that I started working with in 1984 when I got into this business. Because of the antiquated system that they have that we're still supporting, it dictates lots of manual processes and lots of inefficiencies that the people in customer service have to perpetrate. I wish you could go over there to Kapalama and take a look at what they have to deal with. It's horrific. And we're talking about a technology stack that hasn't changed since the early 80s. It's a green screen. There's no mouse support. The system went in before people invented mice. This is a window of opportunity that I see because we have a very talented DIT that has been supporting the system. We've got the political will under the Blangiardi administration. We've got the talent to do it. It's a very risky, very high risk system to implement, but we've got people that have managed projects like this and we're willing to do the work. We just need the money. I've exhausted every avenue. You guys are kind of my last hope. I've tried a transaction fee on the back end. I've tried doing it in my own budget. Flat revenues dictate that it's not going to be in the city and county budget this year. And I'm just telling you guys that we are in an end of life situation for it. I have 2 COBOL programmers left on my staff. They're 150 years old, a little less than that, but they've been working for almost 60 years. And they're about to retire. We don't even let them drive in the same car when they go to lunch. And so when those guys leave and AMVA comes up with new federal requirements, there's nothing we can do. I don't know what's gonna happen. We'll just be in default, I guess. So it's something that really needs to get done. The can has been kicked down the road for 35 years. And we're willing to do the work. We just need the funding. DOT is in support. Like I said, I've exhausted every possibility of funding and this is kind of my last hope. But I'm here for questions and I'll answer any that you might have.
Thank you. City and County of Honolulu Department of Customer Services in support. And 1 individual in opposition. Anyone online or in person wishing to testify on HB 2057?
Thank you. So nobody's here from City and County Department of Customer Services?
No.
Okay, Director, please, IT. So I understand your plea. The Senate bill is dead, citing the appropriation. I understand what you're trying to accomplish. But to your point, so were you directed by the city for this, or the city is asking in support with you to do this?
Well, yeah, I'm working with Kim Mashiro. She's in violent support of this as well. This is kind of our first priority. When I came in, I've been in the seat for a year now, and I saw that this has been something that has been needed to take care of a long time. We're the only state that supports. We're only the state that has a city and county supporting what is clearly a state system. When I first came in, I did a call around and I found out what other states are doing. Almost all the states in the United States have bought a Tyler software system that costs $67 million and takes about 5 years to implement. That was too much for us. I did a bunch of research, called a bunch of people, and got hooked up with the Arizona Department of Transportation. And they have created their own system. By all accounts, it's a really great system. They're willing to give it to me for free. I've already got an agreement with them. The $10 million in 2 installments of $5 million, one soon and the next year, would be for the implementation services, configuring the system, taking all the data out, cleaning it, doing everything we have to do. I think that's a really a deal. 5 other states have now gone with that. It's called the MAX system from Arizona. The state of Wyoming just went live with it last month, and that's a good model for us because we only have, 1.2 million people in the state. If you were to ask California, they'd go, no, just spend the 67 million. But there's actually fewer people in Wyoming than there are in the state of Hawaii, and they made it work. So the director of customer service and myself are going to go out to Phoenix in April and kick the tires and make sure it's something that we really like. But all intents and purposes, the customer service experience by the citizens has improved dramatically, as have the lives of the people that actually have to use the system. The average wait time in a DMV in Arizona is 3 to 5 minutes. They even took out all their chairs. Obviously here, it's much different. And then, the people that have worked in customer service, their lives have not improved in 35 years. So it's, again, for us, it's a matter of the software stack being expensive, being hard to support, and being obsolete. We pay $3 million a year just to rent the mainframe, and that's something that the city takes on. So there is a return on investment in there over time.
And I don't wanna blame you, Ray, but you're obviously inheriting the system, but I do have to make a joke. 35 years of can kicking, I'm only 30. So before my existence, you're kicking the can down.
Yeah, there's people in this room that are COBOL. I have no idea what he's talking about.
No idea what you're talking about.
Okay, well, it's it's horrific.
I'll eventually have a question for DOT, but Rep Moroka.
Yeah, so I'm really glad you brought up the Arizona DOT system because my parents live there, 2 of my daughters live there. It's amazing. If that system was brought here, would it also include the satellite locations?
Oh, yeah.
Because DOT in Arizona, what makes them so great at their minimal time is you don't have to go to the DMV and wait. You can go to your local gas station where you get your safety check and do your red right there with your safety.
You can
So
do
it
things
makes so
online.
many things so good for the people out here that it,
Yeah, they have
which is
mobile
such a
apps.
great thing,
Yeah, we would get all of that. Again, the system itself is provided for free. We would join the community with the other states, and then when we develop something, we would share it with them. We'd have a user group meeting every year,
that would be
coordinate.
part of the implementation down here.
Yeah.
on all of- all right.
Yeah, and again, versus a 67 million 5-year, implementation, I think this is a super deal. And again, you have the talent available to do it right now, at least for the next 3 years.
Even those 150-year-olds can do it, right?
Well, I encourage people to go over to Kapalama and take a look at what those poor people have to do. I mean, literally, wooden stamps that go in special cubbies and re-entering data into different systems and scanning documents. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Before I go to DOT, Kapalama operates as the main terminal for all the satellite DMVs.
They do. Yes. That would be one of the things we would have to contend with. This is a statewide system, so we're a city and county, but we're maintaining what is clearly a state system. So we'd have to roll it out to all the different islands, all the different satellite city halls in Oahu. And there is a lot of change management that goes along with that. We talked to Arizona about how they were able to do the state in one day. They did a big bang, throw the switch, hope for the best implementation, and there's a lot of training and there's a lot that goes into that.
So you folks we'd upfront the cost, County of Honolulu, and then in turn, every other county modernizes.
Mhm.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, we would turn it on everywhere.
They have buy-in to that concept, or they?
Yeah, we support everybody's system. They all use the same system.
You folks operate as the main hub for all the counties, is what you're saying?
Yes, we do.
Interesting.
We also do a lot of the communications for everybody. So City and County of Honolulu takes care of a lot of services for the other islands.
Okay, members, Rep. Cochran?
And thank you, and so following up on this information, could we split the costs through all the other counties too? They all pitch in since they all utilize the service.
Yeah, we had a meeting with DOT just a few days ago, and they're like, "Hey, look, this should be cost shared around the other islands." And I would think it would probably be proportional. So we have 1 million people here, we have 200,000 on the other islands, so you'd probably try to do it that way.
And sorry, and that's being discussed, is that, Are you looking to that rather than just come here and ask for the whole lump sum from a GIA? Is
Well,
that, this
I
is
mean,
one prong approach, I guess, but.
Yeah, we have, yeah, I mean, okay. First I put it in my budget and then that was axed. Then I asked the DOT if they could fund it and they said, we can do it. And they suggested that we look at all the different elements, but knowing that, 80%, maybe more will probably come from Oahu anyway, just based on population. I contracted with a couple of different vendors who promised to do the upfront technology and wait and get paid on the back end through a transaction fee. I mean, I've looked at a lot of different ways to try and fund this. And here I am.
Thanks for your efforts.
Sure.
And thank you. DOT,
Yes,
Deputy, why couldn't you folks fund it in budget or as a, not have to, why are they going to this instead of, to their point, if they're operating a DOT system and DOT is not able to help assist costs?
so I mean, even though the system is operated by city and county, as Director McKee mentioned, it's a statewide, so it supports all the counties. And so when we discussed, that's why we suggested that, each partner in this, because the counties use the system, collect their registration fees. And so it seemed like it would be a shared cost amongst everybody, DOT and the counties. And so the ask is for general obligation funds.
No, general revenue, right? We don't.
General revenue.
Yeah. Cause I don't see any reference to cost sharing. I mean, to the line of questioning that's been happening, there's nothing in here that talks about that. So thank you for clarifying. Members, any further questions? Okay, members, seeing none, let's move on to our next agenda item before us, HB 2589 relating to driving without a license. Makes a second conviction for operating a motor vehicle without a license within a 5-year period a Class A felony if the defendant's actions result in the death of another person. Adds forfeiture of a vehicle as a penalty on a second conviction for operating a motor vehicle without a license within a 5-year period. Vice Chair for the testimony.
Department of Transportation in support.
Yep, DOT stands by its submitted testimony and strong support. Thank you.
Thank you. Department of the Prosecuting Attorney, City and County of Honolulu with comment.
Good morning, Chair Kila, Vice Chair Miyake, and Representative Moroka, Representative Cochran. Daniel Hugo for the Honolulu Prosecutor's Office, and we're offering comment on this bill. I want to start by saying that we wholeheartedly sympathize with families whose loved ones have been killed by motorists who are unlicensed and had no business being on the road in the first place. Our written testimony commented on the abolition of the felony murder rule in Hawaii. The Hawaiian Kingdom adopted the felony murder rule as one of its first borrowings from English common law. The felony murder rule patterns the logic of this bill, which is that if you embark on a crime and someone dies as a result, you should be held responsible as a murderer. That makes a certain kind of sense, though it leads to some counterintuitive results, and scholars have debated this. 47 states retain the rule, but Hawaii does not, so the bill would create an anomaly in our law. We would suggest taking another route, which is to provide by statute that prosecutors can use prior convictions for unlicensed driving as evidence of recklessness in all vehicular homicide cases. If you knew you weren't licensed, got caught for it, got behind the wheel anyway, a jury can hear that. A jury can weigh it, and if the facts support manslaughter, prosecutors will have the tools to prove it. Culpability will do the work, not a prior record acting as an unthinking sentencing lever. The outcome that we're after is accountability proportioned by guilt. That's what the criminal law is for, and safer roads will follow from that.
Thank you.
Thank you. We got individual Sunny Iaea in support.
Stand up. Come, son.
He wants to read his testimony.
That's fine.
Ready? This is my son is Kwali Denning-Ring, and he was 21. He was Sunny's caretaker before he became a mechanic. and they had a bond, a very strong bond. So he wanted to do this for his brother. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
You ready? Okay. Wait. Dear,
Yeah.
loud.
Huh?
Representatives. Go.
My name is Sunny. My brother college. Is good in a car crash.
Yes. Go.
And listen, because he played real please. I will a license in jail for a long time. Thank you. I love you.
Thank you, and we have Sunny's written testimony as well submitted, members, but thank you.
Thank you, Sunny. We got individual Charmaine Grillhole in support.
Aloha couple.
Aloha.
My name is Charmaine Kelly Chimingworth Grillo, and we're the family of Kawani Den Ring. I'm proud of that boy. I want to cry. He doesn't usually get up in front of people. But I just want to say that Kawani was on his way to work when he passed away. He was trying to provide for his family. He was trying to provide for his family when he was run over and murdered by an unlicensed driver with multiple traffic violations. Thank you. With multiple traffic violations. So we are losing our young, talented, educated. My grandson had 2 years of college. He just finished a apprenticeship program for local union 3 for being a diesel mechanic. He just started his job. He wasn't even there 3 weeks when he was run over and murdered. We need to stop people from driving without license with prior violations, because this man had a lot. He still was driving without license. I want to stop the killing of innocent people on the road. We need your help. I'm in strong support of this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. We have individual Shannon Denning in support.
Aloha Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the committee. I'm here today in strong support of House Bill 2589, which would elevate the offenses for driving without a license resulting to another person's death to a Class A felony, and increase the jail sentence for those who choose to drive illegally and cause a traffic fatality. 2025 in Hawaii hit a 20-year high with 129 traffic fatalities. That's above a 20% increase over the previous year. To address this crisis, House Bill 2589 targets the 1%ers. Those are chronic offenders whose reckless choices lead to preventable deaths, and 75% of those 1%ers drive without a license. Traffic violence is a public health crisis. It's a major safety concern in Hawaii. This alarming spike shows that traffic violence in Hawaii is not improving, it's worsening. Ed Sniffen reported in the Civil Beat that more than 90% of traffic deaths can be attributed to behavior, like being on the cell phone or speed. It is not an accident, it is preventable. And one of the leading causes of death for our young people, ages 15 to 24, which is the reason why I'm here. My son didn't finish mechanic school, but he did have 2 years under his belt. He said, "Mom, I quit school. I already know how to fix a car." So he applied to, Pearl Harbor and the local 3. My son, St. Louis graduate, he tested number 2 out of over 800 applicants on his apprenticeship test. He didn't finish school, no previous experience, but his knowledge and skill proved that he had what it takes to be a union heavy equipment diesel operator mechanic. So right off the bat, 21 years old, he proved himself, he accomplished much. 1 month and a half into his apprenticeship program, and he was taken from me. He was a caring son. He had a 2-year-old daughter. He was a loving father. And that brings me the most distress, because in a fatherless society, he was a teenage father, and he was ready to be responsible and take care of his family. And he was set. That kid, right off the bat, he made more money than me, and I have a master's in special education. By the end of his 30-year career, he would have made $6 million. That's a lot of tax money. He was a community contributor. He was neighborly. His neighbor, every time I go to visit my granddaughter now, comes out and he said, "I miss your son," because he wouldn't hesitate. He would give the shirt off his back. Somebody was stuck on the side of the road. He's out there helping them because he can. And that's why we're here today, because we don't want this to happen to any other family. And the sad part is, unlicensed drivers, they cause a lot of accidents. And when they get into the accident, most likely they're the ones that flee. We're from Nanakuli, and Corey Kamaka's family, they don't have closure because his killer is still on the loose. One day after my son died, our good family friend's daughter died in Nanakuli. And that's why I'm here today. These were young people, and they represented their generation well. So this House bill is essential for reclassifying the crime. The bill elevates driving unlicensed and causing death to a Class A felony. It's for accountability, and it has nothing to do with being poor. This status is defined by a history of dangerous behavior and behavioral debt, not financial hardship. And it serves as a deterrent. Current penalties do not reflect the magnitude of a loss of life. Stronger consequences are necessary to stop repeat offenders and hit and run incidents. So my core message is driving unlicensed is a choice. When that choice kills, the law must value the victim's life more than the offender's convenience. Nationally, 17,140 vehicle deaths occurred in the first half of 2025 alone. Highway Traffic Safety Administration reported that there's a slight decline in traffic deaths. National research also shows that approximately 18% of fatal crashes involve unlicensed drivers. Now here's the part where I hope to drive it home. Unlicensed drivers is a disproportionate danger. In Hawaii, it's higher. 20% of traffic deaths involve an unlicensed driver. That's higher than the national rate. That means 1 in 5 deadly crashes in Hawaii involve someone who was not legally permitted to be driving. And as the national rate declined, Hawaii's rate increased. So we're not following the national trends. It's just getting worse. The current penalty is unacceptable. It creates the perception that if you wanna get away with murder, get behind a car, drive without a license, and kill somebody, because they're getting off with just a slap on the wrist. No family should have to feel the way that I feel, and that the law minimizes that the law minimizes their family members' death. Elevating the offense to a Class A felony appropriately recognizes that a preventable and unlawful act resulted in the ultimate harm, which is death. Okay, one more thing. We know the data, we know the statistics. You know that my son, you know that my son died in a senseless car crash due to a small group of high-risk drivers defined by the extreme pattern of reckless behavior rather than socioeconomic status. Because I'm poor and I have a license, so that's not the case. The law must reflect the seriousness of harm. When that choice results in death, the consequence must reflect the gravity of taking a human life. Anything less diminishes the value of the life loss. And this I say in Jesus' mighty name. And thank you guys for listening to my testimony. This is hard for me to do because I hate public speaking. Thank you.
Thank you.
Members, I did suspend the 2-minute testimony limit for this, so thank you folks for allowing that.
We also received 12 individual testimonies in support and 1 with comments. Is there anyone online or in person wishing to testify on HB 2589?
Leilani Atawati, individual, may I approach?
Yes.
Aloha A, Honorable Darius Keela, Committee Chair, Representative District 44, fellow representatives and chairs. Thank you for your time. My name is Mrs. Leilani Atawati. I am submitting my support. I stand in full support of HB 2589. The action of taking another person's life with a motor vehicle due to negligent or cavalier behavior, as demonstrated by a lack of licensure, requires a penalty higher than what is currently there. Driving without a license immediately indicates a lack of both skill and responsibility. Until the potential driver can demonstrate the ability to safely operate the motor vehicle legally, he or she is expected not to do so. The idea that drivers who have not earned this privilege, or even worse, have had it removed from them, currently have minimal consequences in the event of another person's death is no longer acceptable. The heart-wrenching traffic fatalities and violent actions perpetrated by irresponsible individuals who should not be driving in the year 2025 demonstrate a need for immediate action. I urge you to bring HB 2589 to complete fruition. Please do not allow another family to be devastated by lawbreakers who are currently getting away with taking lives. I humbly ask you, on behalf of Sarah, Kowali, all of my irreplaceable students who have lost their own lives, their friends, or their family members, to personally end this preventable cycle of tragedy. Thank you.
Is there anyone else online or in person wishing to testify on HB 2589?
And I just wanna preface for folks, right, when folks are providing testimony, it is not personal, and I just wanna preface, the Office of the Public Defender is often charged with having to defend or oppose these measures, and it's nothing personal in nature, it's the nature of the office, so I just wanna preface that.
Thank you, and thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. I apologize for our late submission, and I do thank you for saying that, and I do want to, before I state anything about the law, understand and very deeply know that this committee is wanting to address what is an obvious issue. The reason that the Office of the Public Defender felt it was necessary to submit testimony in opposition of this measure was not because we don't want strong penalties for egregious behavior. If you review our testimony, we make very clear that the nature of our opposition is that because we already do have laws on the books. I myself, in my capacity as a defense attorney, have represented clients charged with manslaughter, a Class A felony, related to vehicular accidents. I have seen and have actually handled a case where someone was charged with attempted murder for a vehicular accident. We also have negligent homicide in the first degree, negligent homicide in the second degree, and negligent homicide in the third degree. All of these measures are there to address exactly the behavior that we are concerned about. Finally, I know the last thing that this committee wants to do is to pass a law that would actually not provide the justice that these family members so desperately want. The bill as it is written has a lot of concerning language, legal language, that we believe will cause problems down the road. And I just want to highlight the language that says the person's actions result in the death of another person. We've articulated why that we believe that may be problematic in our testimony. We do not believe that would withstand judicial scrutiny and constitutional scrutiny. The nexus is not strong enough. It doesn't carefully articulate the behavior that you're attempting to criminalize. Any action by an unlicensed driver is not, I believe, the behavior the committee and these family members are concerned with. So thank you so much for the opportunity to comment, and I will be available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else online or in person wishing to testify on HB 2589?
Thank you. Honolulu prosecutor, I have a question. Thank you for the comments you folks provided. When you folks have pursued statutes that have allowed forfeiture, how have they held up in court?
So property forfeiture right now, that goes under the civil forfeiture, asset forfeiture laws. With the civil forfeiture law, at least as the law stands now, we do not have to prove the conviction, we just have to show nexus to the crime. So that means that even criminals who die in the course of committing their crimes, we can still forfeit the property.
Judiciary's been supportive in those positions?
In general, the judges will follow
the order.
Well, the process that's set out in the civil forfeiture statute.
Okay, thank you. Members, any further questions? Okay, seeing none, thank you all. Move on to our next agenda item 2417 relating to administrative license revocation, clarifies administrative driver's license revocation procedures by requiring timely disclosure of documents, aligning review timelines, and standardizing administrative review and hearing processes. Vice Chair for testimony.
Department of Transportation in support.
HDOT stands by its submitted testimony and support. Thank you.
Thank you. State of Hawaii Judiciary in opposition.
Hi, good morning, Chair Keeler, Vice Chair Miyake, and members of the committee. I'm Carrie Harada, Chief Adjudicator at the Administrative Driver's License Revocation Office. We would stand on our on our testimony in opposition to HB 2417, but we are in support of the proposed HD1.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Attorney General's office with comments.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Michael Shambrella, Deputy Attorney General with the Department of Attorney General. The department supports the proposed HD1 of the prosecutor's office. I'm available for questions if you have any. Thank you.
Thank you. County of Hawaii Office of the Prosecuting Attorney with comments. City and County of Honolulu Department of the Prosecuting Attorney in support.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Daniel Hugo for the Honolulu Prosecutor's Office, and we stand in strong support of the proposed HD1. The proposed HD1, we believe, first addresses some of the concerns about administrative burden that the judiciary raised, but second, and importantly, by placing the onus on, by placing a presumption that the person's license has been revoked, what that does is it eliminates a common shell game that we see in courts where people pretend that they didn't know that their license was suspended. It means that the enforcement penalty, oftentimes the only substantive enforcement that we get on these crimes, the revocation of the person's driver's license is enforced and that we can prove it in court. Thank you.
Thank you. We also received one testimony from an individual in support. Anyone online or in person wishing to testify on HB 2417? Seeing none.
Thank you, members, any questions? Seeing none, let's go on to our next agenda item, HB 2020 relating to renewal of a driver's license, requires applicants for driver's license renewal to complete an educational course that includes a road safety video developed by Department of Transportation and a written examination. Vice Chair for testimony.
Department of Transportation in support.
DOT stands by its submitted testimony and support. Thank you.
Thank you. Attorney General's Office with comments.
Morning, Chair Keela, Vice Chair Miyake, members of the committee, Michael Moyama, Deputy Attorney General. This bill would require applicants who are renewing their driver's license to pass a written road safety exam that tests the applicant's knowledge of state traffic laws and county traffic ordinances. Department of the Attorney General recommends that on page 2, lines 3 through 4, the language, including any changes in state traffic laws, be deleted as unnecessary. The bill would already require an applicant to pass an exam that tests the applicant's knowledge of state traffic laws and the traffic ordinances in the county where the applicant resides or intends to operate a motor vehicle. That makes the additional caveat that the exam include changes in state traffic laws as unnecessary. In addition, there's no similar requirement that the applicant be tested on changes in county ordinances. Therefore, the department recommends that the language that says that the test should include changes in state traffic laws be deleted. Thank you.
Thank you. Office of the Public Defender in opposition.
Hi, good morning again. Haley Chang, the first deputy of the Office of the Public Defender. We have submitted opposition to this measure and really just want to frame the issue. As the agency responsible for providing indigent defense for the state of Hawaii, I can confidently state that more burdensome renewal requirements will not help people comply. It will actually reduce compliance and it will increase unlicensed driving. That is just the unfortunate reality of the system that we're dealing with. Which is why I appreciate some of the other things that this committee is trying to do to try to streamline or make more efficient the process. Driving in Hawaii is not optional for a lot of people, and we understand the very controversial conversation around all of that. But I can tell you firsthand, as somebody who's probably represented thousands of people throughout my career charged with driving without license, many of these individuals are not people who are being flagrantly, in disregard of the law. Sometimes they have a citation that they couldn't pay, it went to collections, there's a stopper, and there's a snowball effect that goes from there. Some people just forgot to renew their license. They get a driving without license, and then when they go, there's additional barriers because of the lapse in time. So we'd ask this committee not to make it more difficult to renew licenses or to become licensed. We want people to be in compliance. Additional barriers, we believe, is not going to reduce the harm on the roads or reduce the amount of people driving. It will just make people non-compliant. We're also concerned about the disproportionate impact it will have on indigent communities and certain marginalized members of our community as well. And we believe that the committee is interested in passing something that it should be focused on people who have demonstrated poor driving history. That perhaps might be a good medium. So thank you. I'll be available for questions.
Thank you.
Honolulu City Council Member Radiant Cordero in support. City and County of Honolulu Department of Customer Services with comments. And we received 2 individual testimonies in support. Anyone online or in person wishing to testify on HB 2020? Seeing none.
Thank you. Members, any questions? Seeing none, I'd like to move to our next agenda item, HB 2026, relating to transportation, restricts motor vehicles that tow a motor vehicle or trailer from the far left lane on roads with 3 or more lanes going in the same direction with exemptions, specifies penalties for restricting motor vehicles who drive in the far left lane on roads with 3 or more lanes moving in the same direction, applies restrictions and penalties to a county with a population of 500,000 or more. Vice Chair for testimony.
Department of Transportation in support.
HDOT stands by its submitted testimony and support. Thank you.
Thank you. Hawaii Transportation Association with comments.
Hi. Kina Yamaki with the Hawaii Transportation Association. We do stand on our comments and we would like to respectfully suggest a few amendments. One of them is to change the word and to or. A lot of our larger trucks now are not manual, they're automatic, so they can actually keep up with traffic. And the other one is to include all buses. They all have CDL license, they all do defensive driving, and they are no different than the city transportation buses.
Thank you. And Polynesian Adventure Tours with comments. Anyone online or in person wishing to testify on HB 2026? Seeing none, Chair.
Thank you. Members, any questions? Vice Chair.
For Hawaii Transportation. Good morning, thank you. In your testimony, you stated that one of the recommendation amendments is to include all buses. Why would we include that in the fast lane?
So right now, tour buses are just like city buses, right? They move people from place A to place B, and they do it in a timely manner because they wanna catch a show or they wanna catch other things. These buses can drive just as fast as the city buses. They do the same type of CDL license, they have the same training, so it's not like just putting anybody in the lanes. And it also look at it this way too. Anytime a bus is full, you're taking about 34 to 35 cars off the road. So we feel that is also better for traffic flow as well.
Can I just clarify, drive just as fast and just as safe, right?
Yes, I mean, they can, I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. They can keep up with the speed limit of like the rest of the cars. It's not like they're slowing traffic down. Thank you.
Just wanted to clarify.
Yes. No, we drive safely within the speed limit. I hope to God we do.
They speed safely, huh?
Yes, those who don't, I don't think they're my members.
Thank you. Members, any further questions? Seeing none, like move on to our next agenda item, HB 2378, relating to transportation exempts persons operating wing and ground craft from the application of the Hawaii Water Carriers Act defines wing and ground craft. Vice Chair for testimony.
Public Utilities Commission with comments.
Aloha, good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the House Committee on Transportation. My name is Andrew Okabe. I'm Utility Analyst at Public Utilities Commission. I'm here on behalf of Chair Itomura and the Commission. I stand the Commission's written testimony offering comment and supporting the intent of HB 2378 and available for any questions the committee may have. Thank you.
Thank you. Hawaii Technology Development Corporation with comments.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. David Molinaro with Hawaii Technology Development Corporation. Stand on our testimony in support of HB 2378 as written. I'll be available for any questions if needed.
Thank you.
Thank you. Regent Craft in support on Zoom.
Yes, aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. I'm Michael Prue, Regional Director for North America at Regent Craft. I appreciate the opportunity to testify today in strong support of HB 2378, and I stand on my written testimony in support. Just real quickly, as a brief introduction for understanding, Regent Craft manufactures the all-electric wing and ground effect vehicles called Sea Gliders. And these will float and foil on the water, as well as fly 40 to 50 feet above the water's surface. The way these operate represents a fundamental shift in maritime travel. So combining the speed of an aircraft with the low operating cost of a vessel to move people and cargo between coastal communities. And HB 2378 is a critical piece really of that puzzle. This bill is vital because it recognizes that sea gliders are a unique class of innovative vessels, and subjecting them to the same PUC regulations as heavy water carriers would create red tape that could hurt innovation. And we want to ensure that this remains affordable and competitive for service for all of Hawaii. So I urge the committee to pass HB 2378 to help Hawaii lead in sustainable maritime tech. Thank you again, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Kauai Climate Action Coalition in support. HMSA in support. Energy Justice Network in support.
Are you on Zoom?
Yes, sir. Aloha, yes, I'm on Zoom. Good timing. I just had to jump over from another committee meeting on so-called clean fuels and sustainable aviation fuels. And my name is Mike Ewall with Energy Justice Network, and I'm in strong support of this bill that would enable sea gliders, especially because it is a clean alternative to what was just being promoted in 3 other bills in the Environmental Committee in the House side. The fact that it doesn't have to burn things to get people from one island to another is really the long-term solution to getting to a clean energy economy and meeting the state's legal requirements, including the Navajene settlement by 2045 to switch to transportation fuels that do not involve climate change impacts. So please support this bill. It's a great solution and definitely have to go. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Grassroots Institute of Hawaii in support. HCDA in support. Not present. And we also received testimony from 7 individuals in support. Anyone online or in person wishing to testify on HB 2378? Seeing none, Chair.
Thank you. Regent Aircraft, I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
Where are you folks at with operation of a potential wing glider or sea glider?
Yes, so right now we're in the testing phase. So we have the full size 12 passenger prototype on the water in Rhode Island, and that's going through float and foiling test with the expectation of we'll start our flight tests this summer. And then, we move through the certification process with the U.S. Coast Guard because we are a maritime vessel. I do want to be clear that we're not an aircraft. And so once we get through that, we're building a manufacturing facility now for production and delivery to customers at the end of 2027.
Where is manufacturing?
It's in Rhode Island.
Okay, so obviously we have different, how do you say it? They don't have humpback whales in Rhode Island. They don't have the marine life, nor maybe I think the interaction. So what is the procedures or how does a potential sea glider avoid collision? I know you're saying you're going above 40, 50 feet off the ocean.
Sure. So, just to start, marine safety is a non-negotiable for us. And because of that, we're using a combination of different sensor technologies. So that's infrared computer vision, that's underwater acoustics, that's hull-borne sensors to detect wildlife and mammals far in advance while we're operating the vessel. And more importantly, because sea gliders are maneuverable and don't require deep water channels, we can proactively avoid, like you said, mapped whale sanctuaries entirely. And we're designing this technology specifically to be safer than the heavy propellers and displacement holes currently in those waters. So that is all something that we're testing throughout this process because we understand the concern that you had just brought up about us operating in densely populated or wildlife mammal populated areas like that.
And then what type of license would somebody have to carry to operate this?
So this would be a 25-ton commercial boat captain's license near shore. That would be the base license, and then they would be taken through the Regent training program, similar to an add-on that you would get if you have your private pilot's license. So this would be a wing and ground effects sea glider add-on to that base license.
And that testing is already available, or are they building out that testing license?
So that is under development, and a lot of that is informed by our testing that's ongoing in Rhode Island. And so that will all be resolved as soon as we get through the prototyping process that we're in now.
So no hiccups. You folks are saying that your first delivery is summer 2027.
So yes. So we are on track for that delivery at the end of 2027. There's obviously that distinction between the final product and the developmental process. Developing frontier technology is hard, especially when you're building a new mode of transportation that essentially has never existed in this way before. So really bumps in the road are not just possible. They should be expected because we are testing the limits and we're going through a rigorous testing program. But as I stand here and sit here today, we are on track.
Okay, thank you. Members, any further questions? Rep Miyake, Rep Moroka.
For Michael, Region, thank you again for being here. It says that the Sea Glider is an all-electric passenger carrying vehicle, I guess. But what about the infrastructure for that? How was that?
Yeah, so sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No.
That's a great question. And really our approach is to leverage existing harbor and dock infrastructure as much as possible. So really the idea behind sea gliders and the design of them is to operate with current facilities. So now of course we need shoreside charging infrastructure. That's true, but I'd encourage the committee to think that not as a cost unique to sea gliders, but really as an investment in the future of Hawaii's harbors. I said this in the Senate hearing as well. Maritime electrification is happening. It's not a question of if, it's when. And so these charging infrastructures will help bring online that we would help bring online. Doesn't just serve sea gliders; it would serve the entire maritime ecosystem. So other electric vessels, other harbor equipment, shoreside operations, things like that. So I don't really see, the electrification side, or I don't want you to see the electrification side as a burden, but more as an opportunity to have Hawaii be ahead of the curve on that side.
Thank you.
Moroka.
Just following up on Rep Miyake, because that was the first part of my question is infrastructure, and this bill is asking you folks to be exempted as a water carrier. So the water carriers currently, they pay for the infrastructure and the harbors, and you heard some of the bills earlier talking about harbors and all of that. How does that, in what way would it, in what ways do you folks want to be exempted but still use the same facilities as the harbors or as other water carriers?
I think the key distinction is that sea gliders are fundamentally different than traditional water carriers. So, they're not necessarily these very large ferries. They're not these large heavy water cargo ships. They're this new class of vessels, so all electric high speed craft that lift above the water and operate more like a regional air transit than a conventional maritime transport. And I think really the PUC framework itself for water carriers was designed to regulate those heavy, slow-moving vessels operating as essential services, but outside from the perspective of a monopolistic approach. I think that's the right framework for context in terms of that we would be competing in the inter-island travel space. We'll be competing directly with the airlines. We'll be competing with other transportation options. And I think the competitive pressure that the PUC was created to simulate already exists naturally in our space, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Okay, and the second part, I'm sure you guys done a lot of research. Explain to me, because I've never seen an operation like this happen, with Hawaii's distinct, unique features, our waves, our winds, how much space, for lack of better terms, would you folks need to go from loading to airborne? And is it even possible with our waves and our situations out here, especially if you're competing in an inner island market? A lot of the cliffs, a lot of the areas out there are bigger than 50 feet. So what routes would you take? And is it feasible to land in the waters on the other islands as well as out here?
Yeah, so if I'm just to sort of try to clarify your question, I do want to say that we will always operate over the water because we are in fact a maritime vessel. So in terms of the cliffs or things like that, we would not be operating over the land, and we would require a necessary separation from obstacles such as land-based masses like that. And we've had a coalition, the Hawaii Sea Guard Initiative, that's about 38 members, all from private industry to community members, all uncovering where these could potentially operate, and we've conducted a very base level feasibility study that's evaluating a number of harbors in that area, trying to see where an operation would be feasible. And so, really, you can conduct the entire mission on hydrofoils if you really wanted to, but, like you said, with the certain wave tolerances around those certain areas, it'd make a lot of sense to take off and actually utilize the platform as it was designed. So, when you're in flight, of course, you're always maintaining a certain altitude above the water, that 40 to 50 feet. And when you're on the hydrofoil and you want to transition to flight, you're really looking at that 1,000. You only really need about 1,000 feet for takeoff in that sense. So you would actually be on the hydrofoil for a minimal amount of time. Does that help answer the question?
Yes and no, but no worries, I get it, it's new. It could just be my ignorance of the whole operation, and I'll do more research on my end as well to see what it's actually like.
If I can dovetail off at Moroka, this is obviously, I think, the first time the committee has considered this, so I think the line of questioning is actually appropriate. So I think to what Moroka was really trying to get to though, what is Regent's intent on the purpose of testing in Hawaii and licensing in Hawaii? Because I think largely the committee could concur Rhode Island compared to Hawaii waters are two different things.
Again, to clarify, so Regent functions strictly as the manufacturer of the vessel. So we're not the ones that are operating the vessel, so we will deliver to the customers. What I can tell you is that there is significant interest from operators to utilize this vessel in Hawaii, both here in Hawaii, but also globally. Passing the bill, makes Hawaii a more attractive market for those operators because, we have sold to aviation operators, we've sold to maritime operators, and, when an operator is evaluating where to launch service, regulatory clarity is one of the first things they look at. So a clear, sensible regulatory framework that tells an operator that this state is ready for this technology and wants it here. So, we don't necessarily want the red tape or uncertainty to tell them to look somewhere else because we have came here with our coalition, almost over 2 years ago and have really identified, that there is potential avenues for sea gliders to run a viable operation and actually help, whether that be from equity and access to resiliency to helping to the decarbonization goals. So from that perspective, we plan to deliver these to operators, but we are utilizing our coalition and what we've learned down here to set up the necessary environment to attract operators to this location.
But are you not saying that Regent would not want to support potential clients in Hawaii by providing either test and or running demonstrations for Hawaii waters?
Oh, I think if the opportunity presented itself and we wanted to test down there, not committing to anything, I think it would be something that we would investigate. We do have operators telling us that they want to operate in that space, so we're going to do everything we can to bring sea gliders to Hawaii.
Okay, members, any further questions? Thank you, Regent.
Sorry,
Rep. Cochran.
Aloha, and so you folks, the NOAA, do you know the NOAA organization or military? Would you folks also be participating with those types of entities?
Yes, I can't speak directly to our NOAA relationship. I know we do have one, but I'm happy to follow up directly with you about that. We do have a defense aspect to Regent and Sea Glider, so we do have relationships with the Defense Department. We have grant funding from the Marine Corps Warfighting Lab to develop these as a defense platform or mechanism. We also have a smaller drone version, if you will, that the DoD is looking at as well. So it's definitely a dual use platform, which obviously connects well into the Hawaii ecosystem as well.
And Chair, a follow-up.
Yes.
And for medical type services, right, it's notated that'd probably be some of the main uses as a 12-passenger aircraft.
Yes, that's correct. So not only would it be used for, to provide greater medical access because of the low cost nature of it, there's also the inside cabin could be redesigned to have stretchers, if you will, inside, very similar to a medevac helicopter.
All right, thank you for your time and information.
Thank
Chair.
you. Thank you, Regent. I appreciate it. Members, let's move on to our next agenda item. Sorry, forgive me. HB 1742 HD1 relates to housing, authorizes construction and occupation self-contained relocatable housing unit to certain restrictions. Effective 1/7/1/3000. Vice Chair for testimony.
Department of Health with comments.
Morning, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. John Nagato with Department of Health, Wastewater Branch. The department stands on its written testimony, providing comments and is available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Hawaii Realtors in support. CAI in opposition. Grassroots Institute of Hawaii in support. Housing Hawaii's Future in support.
Aloha Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee, thank you for hearing this measure today. We strongly support House Bill 1742, but we just want to add on to the written comments we submitted. As we took a more careful dive into this measure, we were also examining another measure, House Bill 1719. That measure would authorize manufactured homes by right. We believe that some of the language in that measure needs to be factored when considering this measure as well. And the reason for that, simply put, is because as this measure is currently framed, or at least how we currently see it being framed, this form of housing would still be treated as personal property. And across the country, as this form of housing is authorized at the state level, that issue still lingers. And when folks want to eventually sell this form of housing, or if they eventually want to purchase this form of housing, they're often going to need to find a way to finance it, and they need to get a home loan to finance this type of purchase. Right now, as we're reading this measure, we believe that the measure still continues to treat self-contained relocatable property as personal property. We believe it should be treated as real property. And so for that reason, again, we strongly support House Bill 1742. But we ask that you look at the language in House Bill 1719 and consider adding some of that language, which again recognizes manufactured housing as real property. We believe this form of housing should also be recognized as real property. Thank you.
Thank you. We received 15 testimonies from individuals in opposition and 1 with comment. Anyone online or in person wishing to testify on HB 1742 HD1?
Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the House Committee. My name is Jaden Tuttle. I'm the owner and founder of Hawaii Tiny Homes, where we specialize in building affordable housing solutions. And we stand in strong support of Bill HB 1742. We build affordable relocatable homes for individuals and organizations across the state. The price of our homes average between $100,000 to $130,000 typically. They don't exceed that. So they're on a lower price point for people. But one of the biggest hurdles that we face is just the communication and distinguishing what is allowed on private property with the cities and counties across the state. There's very vague written guidelines for relocatable housing. There's no clear regulations or process pertaining to this matter, which makes it very difficult for anyone to do it in the correct way that's recognized by the individual counties and the zoning departments. And so having this bill in place will create a dialogue and the correct way to do it recognized by each county. But we feel strongly with this new bill in place, with clear rules and regulations across the board. More locals will be able to have affordable housing options as they need, and yeah, be a great opportunity. So we're excited for this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else online or in person wishing to testify on HB 1742 HD1? Chair.
Thank you, members, any questions?
Yeah, Chair,
Rep. Cochran.
for I think it's DHS is here, is that right?
Department of Human Services or
Oh, who is here for
Department of
Mr.
Health?
Fink? Oh, Department of Health, sorry.
Yes.
Department of Health. Morning.
Morning.
Hi, I just you just came up and said stand on your testimony. Can you just elaborate some key points to what that is, please?
Morning, John Nagato, Department of Health, Wastewater Branch. So we just wanted to highlight that because of the language that mentioned operates independently of permanent utilities, and in our case wastewater in particular, we want to make sure what type of how they're containing or handling their wastewater is addressed. They can't have the whatever's collecting it, which is a holding tank, touch the ground, because then that would be against our Hawaii administrative rules. And so in our testimony, the only options we think are pumping and hauling. So you need to be able to have a permanent, continuous and frequent pumping and hauling service for these types of I guess buildings or dwellings, or you register pump or hauling yourself. There's no such wastewater system that is not able to connect. The bill wrote, connected to utilities. And I'm not sure if they were just thinking of like a sewer, municipal sewer, but also an on-site wastewater system might classify as a utility. So I'm not sure. We just wanted to point that out. We see one viable option, pumping and
so you folks would be asking then for the clarity that the utilities should include wastewater system?
Well, we just think as it's written, there is.
Or there's ambiguity of what a utility is, so you're asking for clarification potentially? Or you just wanna make sure it's wastewater?
Well, we just wanna make sure that whoever's gonna be using this, that they're aware that
They're still subject.
Yeah, they're still subject to our rules, and the only option, if we follow how it's written, is pumping and hauling.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, yeah, the individual wastewater systems, those types that are contained and then, they're pumped.
Well,
Porta potties or, that type of, but in a house.
There's a distinction between a porta potty. The porta potty is not an individual wastewater system. Those are temporary in our rules, and so those fall under the same rules as holding tanks. So you can't have temporary, permanent porta potties, or for construction sites, but those are very temporary, and they're only for temporary buildings. This is kind of.
But these are relocatable and movable, so they're kind of like are, but can also not be.
Exactly.
So it's sort of this, how are you utilizing this home?
Yeah, because it was called a home, we assumed even though it's
Right.
relocatable, someone's gonna be there. Temporary meaning more like an event, a
Sure.
construction site. People aren't usually living, it's usually for the contractors or things like that that are coming during the daytime, but to sleep there and live there. Even if you can relocate it for a short period and come back to it, porta potties might not be, and porta potties only address restroom waste, toilet waste. It doesn't address shower, kitchen waste.
I think like a pump don't dump sort of concept. The tiny homes in Lahaina right now are actually doing that. Everything's being collected, then they're just pumping out into whatever those service trucks are something.
Correct.
They're not tied into county sewer right now. Those temporary homes in Lahaina.
Right, and those, I think if you're mentioning those people that are that were affected by the wildfire,
Yes.
that was a very special case, and yeah, they're in a very particular specific scenario, but I'm not sure if that was meant for this.
Right.
Yeah, so we just wanted to make sure that they understand that pumping and hauling is their only option as they wrote the bill. We're not asking them to.
I think if I can clarify for Rep. Cochran, I think because the introducer is trying to make this not on a case by case, but instead of permanent pathway, I think to your line of questioning, that is a concern that needs to be addressed.
Yeah, or at least they're aware.
This is obviously a certain circumstance, but if the state is pursuing this type of housing, right?
And I guess in a final question, you're supportive of the,
I
is the department supportive?
I guess we're not opposed to it. We just
Okay,
wanted to make
you
sure that
want
this is clear. Yeah.
Yeah, okay,
make sure
alright,
it's clear.
thank you
Thank
for your
you. Members, any further
Sure,
questions
yes,
for Moroka? Department of Health?
Yeah, Department of Health. So, listening to what you said, how would this be any different than a current construction site? They bring in these mobile offices, I've done them, I've installed them, I've hauled them, and they just put a holding tank. So.
Well, it's like
now,
a bladder underneath usually, right?
It's a ANSI certified holding tank. It's a septic holding tank. They put them on the job sites, and they get pumped. But my question was, I guess my concern is, you said that once it touches the ground, it becomes yours.
Yeah.
So how does that apply to these construction sites or
We
a lot
not-
of these?
We might not be aware of it, and if we are aware
Well,
of it,
it's industry standard. Everybody's aware of it. They sell products like that. The Department of Health actually approves them.
I'm not sure which department is approving, because if we're we don't approve those, because if we were aware of it, we might have to enforce on that.
So if after this, maybe I'll get your information. We'll go over more. But it's ongoing. It's active practice right now.
Well, we do know of the like kind of trailer type, structures, 40-foot container, 20-foot container.
Yeah.
They have a bladder, so it's
Oh,
underneath.
Maybe we're saying the same thing in different words.
Yeah.
How would that be different?
Those are usually for the daytime. The engineers, contractors that work at the trailer, they use the toilet. Maybe they wash their hands, but no kitchen waste, no shower. So that's a much different and more wastewater that's produced.
And if I can clarify, right, I think to Rep. Moroka's point and to your point, right, the bill is trying to attempt the authorization of TMKs on a residential property versus I think what is used in commercial or industrial areas which have no intent for living. So I think that's what we're all looking at, right? So I understand the line of questioning is for the current.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for that.
Okay, members, any further questions? Rep.
Question for Tiny Homes Hawaii. Good morning, thanks for being here. Could you tell us a little bit about how your wastewater systems operate?
Yeah, so it could be, there's a couple different options. So with wastewater, it's separated into gray water and black water. So your sinks and showers and your toilet. So have different levels of hazardous waste. They can be routed to holding tanks like discussed. I'm not aware about the one touching the ground versus above, but I guess it could be either. But essentially it's a holding tank, and it gets pumped by a pump truck. A septic pump truck comes and pumps them out. They come in different sizes, and some others use composting toilets. So in some rural areas where it's just not accessible for pump trucks to access, they can replace a traditional toilet that flushes into a septic system or holding tank with a composting toilet. There's a variety of those. Essentially, it's basically a bucket, or it turns into mulch type situation, or they have incinerating toilets. There's a wide variety of ways to dispose of wastewater.
Thank you, members. Any further questions? Okay, last agenda item before us, HB 2337, related to transportation, requires unencumbered and unexpended revenues from the Automated Speed Enforcement Systems Program to excess of $12 million as of June 30th each year to lapse to the general fund. Vice Chair for testimony.
Department of Transportation in support.
Yep, Robin HDOT, stand by your submitted testimony and support. Thank you.
Thank you. And we received one testimony from an individual in support. Anyone online or in person wishing to testify on HB 2337? Seeing none, Chair.
Thank you. Members, any questions? Okay, seeing none, let's recess. Okay, reconvening our Committee on Transportation. I just wanna thank the members for your patience this morning, and if I could just say a few things, as soon as we do the last measure, we're gonna gavel up. This is our last committee hearing as we approach our first lateral deadline. At this point, the final bills are heading towards their last committees. So the Transportation Committee, for the purposes after today, will probably no longer be reconvening until Senate bills cross over, and I just wanna thank all the members, I think, for your positions, your comments, your questions. I've appreciated working with you folks, and I'd be remiss to not thank my staff, Vice Chair Miyake's staff, the support staff that help make these committees work and move forward, because it's a lot of work, so. And I do need to acknowledge Vice Chair Miyake, as he's doing double duty for housing and transportation. And it's been a welcome, I think, addition to my direction as a legislator and what we've moved forward through this committee, so I just wanna say thank you for that. I also try to do things very subject or similar in nexus, so as you folks saw today, this is probably the most heavy agenda before the first lateral deadline. I think there are a lot of similarities in these measures, but obviously I think they're all trying to address some core values that the committee has some consensus on. So if I can begin with our first agenda item before us, HB 1588. Members like to adopt the HD one for this one. We'll do tech amendments for clarity, consistency, and style. HMSO with effective date. And in the committee report, I need DOT and the next committee, should they hear this measure, to clarify the cost and appropriations needed to carry out this measure. And so for the purpose of that, I'm gonna insert a blank placeholder amount for an appropriation for the carrying of this bill for further discussion. Members, any questions, comments, concerns?
Chair, I have a comment.
Yes.
Can you include somewhere in there, right now I have reservations, but I'll change to yes, if you can include in there for them to clarify the decibel rating.
Yes, so if I can insert placeholder language, and I do wanna clarify that there was that came in, oh, forgive me, let me go back. Before voting, I also like to adopt the recommendations put forth by Department of Health for clarity of motor vehicle noise as it pertains to the registering of the noise program, to Rep. Moroka's line of questioning, or putting the placeholder to as to what is the determining decibel limit, if that should be done Department of Health, Department of T rules, or for the purpose of carrying out the pilot in statute. I think I don't wanna confuse you folks, but what we're trying to do right now, Department of Health and DOT may implement the rules and standards, but I think to some concern, if we can just legislate the perceived decibels for the readings, that may give us some flexibility on what is accomplished, that can be accomplished.
Sure.
Okay,
Doesn't county already have noise ordinances?
county has noise ordinances, but for the establishment of a noise pilot program for citing people, that I think to what Rep. Moroka is trying to ask, is folks gonna be cited to clarify whether that's legislation or via HRS to carry out the program. Okay, members, Vice Chair for the vote, please.
Voting on HB 1588, the recommendation is to pass with amendments. Chair and Vice Chair votes aye. Representative Cochran.
Aye.
Representative Evslin. Aye. Representative Randanetti is excused. Representative Kitagawa.
Aye.
Representative Lachiko.
Aye.
Representative Muraoka.
Aye.
Representative Perry.
Aye.
The recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members. Our next agenda item, HB 1696. I'd like to adopt the HD one for this one, and I wanna acknowledge that in several different silos, there were folks working on this, myself, Hawaii Transportation Association, and then also Rep. Moroka. And I really wanna just acknowledge that for us in our neighboring communities, this is one of those measures that, as we talk about addressing cost of living, making more sustainable pathways to staying in Hawaii, this is a career pathway that can prove tenfold change somebody's life and their ohana itself. So I wanna thank Rep. Moroka for working with me on this one in the spirit of bipartisanship. So for this one, I wanna adopt the HD one, members do tech amendments for clarity, consistency, and style. HMSO effective date. I wanna adopt the proposed amendments put forth by Department of Transportation and Hawaii Transportation Association. And then I'm also gonna insert a placeholder for blank hours requirement for the certification for further discussion. I know, and note in the committee report, HTA had suggested 320 hours, but putting that as a blank for further discussion and deliberation before the next committee. Members, any questions, comments, concerns?
Sure.
Rep. Cochran.
Appreciate we are shorthanded and Maui County appreciates this, you know, because we are shorthanded on drivers.
Oh, absolutely.
From commercial, you know, cement trucks, for building, construction, school buses, you know, all of the above, so thank
Yeah,
you.
and to your point, Rep. Cochran, I think the fire that occurred in your district exacerbated the CDL crisis that we are in, because what was needed to be done there sucked out all the drivers we had here, and from my understanding, with some deliberation of potential numbers, this industry at any time has 200 retirement eligible age operators in our state. And should they all decide to retire tomorrow, we would be in crisis. So helping to get young folks ready is important. Members, any further questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote, please.
Voting on HB 1696, the recommendation is to pass with amendments, noting the excused absence of Representative Grandinetti for the remainder of this hearing. Any reservations? Any no votes? Seeing none, the recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members. Our next agenda item, HB 233, relating to transportation. Members, I'd like to adopt the HD1 on this one. On page 3, lines 1 through 3, we're gonna reword "no person shall enter or remain within the airport special district zone while," and then we're gonna list the behaviors currently as written in the bill. We're gonna also state unlawful entry includes but is not limited to, just so there's no ambiguity or vagueness of the intent. On page 3, lines 12 through 14, we're gonna reword to read "no person shall sit, sleep, or lie, use, maintain, or place personal property or otherwise obstruct the right of way within the airport special district zone." We're gonna insert a savings clause on this measure as well. Tech amendments for clarity, consistency, and style, and HMSO effective date. I wanna thank the department for putting forth this measure, because I think, as we saw in the line of questioning, it is not to be barrier restrictive on a public resource and access, but we can acknowledge our airport districts as, if not one of the more interesting public use areas for the safety of not just the people who utilize it, but for the liability of the state. I think this is a measure that is worth considering and putting forth. So with that, members, any questions, comments, concerns?
Sure.
Rep. Cochran.
Just trying to figure out how we can address the one-way tickets, and then those are the individuals that are literally trying to live within the boundaries.
Oh, absolutely.
They're already in it. They didn't come from outside and then, you know, encroach onto the boundary limits. They got off this plane and now here they are, so it's odd. I mean, I know, I'm happy they're aware, but I'm just wondering what type of efforts are putting towards addressing it. I know there was like one-way tickets, we were shipping them back or something through the governor's office, but so unlawful entry, I feel like that, whether airlines can, I don't know if they can track every one ways or something to figure out, is it legit? I don't know.
I think in previous conversations, that was the that we've had with operators, the thing that they're struggling with is you can't necessarily discriminate on the purchase of a ticket. But to your point, I think if we're trying to adopt a measure like this, and knowing that folks are trying to inhabit these airports, it does create some, I think, mechanism of either trying to relocate them. And I believe it was the last cycle when we tried to appropriate more monies to the program. I don't believe we did, but I wanna acknowledge to your concern, but also acknowledge that I think this is trying to accomplish a different thing, but can still be accomplished in the same silo. So,
Alright, more discussion to come?
yeah, absolutely.
Okay, thank you, I'm sorry.
Thank you. No,
Thank
members, any further questions? Seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote, please.
Voting on HB 2333, the recommendation is to pass with amendments. Are there any reservations? Any no votes? Seeing none, the recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members. Next agenda item before us, 2138, relating to economic development. Members, this already contains a effective date and repeals on June 30th, 2028. So with that, we're gonna adopt as is. Members, any questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote, please.
Voting on HB 2138 HD1, the recommendation is to pass as is. Are there any reservations? Any no votes? The recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members. Our next agenda item before us, HB 2332. Members like to adopt the HD1 on this measure. Tech amendments for clarity, consistency, and style. There will be numerous technical amendments to fix the style and formatting as proposed before the committee, and there need to be each missile effective date, please. Members, questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote, please.
Voting on HB 2332, the recommendation is to pass with amendments. Are there any reservations? Any no votes? Seeing none, the recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members. HB 2283 relating to port pilotage. Members, for this one, I want to adopt the HD1 on this measure. I want to adopt Matson's testimony as proposed. which removes the Port Allen reference, tech amendments for clarity, consistency, and style, and HMSO to affect the effective date. Members, any questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote, please.
Voting on HB 2283, the recommendation is to pass with amendments. Are there any reservations? Any no votes? Recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members. HB 2217 relating to identification. I think that several different testimonies that came in on this measure and acknowledging, I think, what it is it trying to attempt to do and different proposals put forth to accomplish this. So for this one, members, I want to adopt the HD1 for this measure. I want to adopt the Department of Community Accessibility Board's testimony as proposed. Members, for this one, do tech amendments for clarity, consistency, and style. HMSO to affect the effective date. And I want to clarify per the testimony of DCAB that should the individual seek this seek the delineation or seek the marker, whatever shall be decided. It is an opt-in program. So with that, members, any questions, comments, or concerns?
Chair,
Cochran?
Attorney General's comments.
Yes.
Are you entertaining any of their comments and amendments?
So from way I read, DCAB kind of is trying to accomplish that, but I will note in the committee report for further deliberation put forth by the AGs. Cause I think what AGs is trying to accomplish, or what they're proposing, may dilute the measure to what it's trying to accomplish. So I think for me, having the opt-in version and with DCAB's proposed testimony is a palatable middle ground.
Yeah, I'll probably at this point be a WR and I'll have another stab at this in June.
No, absolutely, I acknowledge that it's a new type of measure, but I think I know what it's trying to accomplish, and I welcome your folks' input, so thank you.
Alright.
And members, further questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote, please.
Voting on HB 2217, the recommendation is to pass with amendments, noting the presence of Representative Granzanetti. All members are present, and the reservations of Representative Cochran. Any other reservations? Reservations for Rep. Muraoka. Any no votes? The recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members. HB 2059 relating to emergency services. I'd like to adopt the HD1 for this measure. I want to adopt the proposed amendments put forth by the Department of Health on 2059. HMSO to affect the effective date and do technical amendments for clarity, consistency, and style on this measure. Members, questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote, please.
Voting on HB 2059, the recommendation is to pass with amendments. Are there any reservations? Any no votes? The recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members. Next agenda item before us, HB 2057. I wanna acknowledge, right, that the director coming before us did inherit a system, and acknowledging that it's broken. I understand. I also wanna add context. The Senate bill was deferred, so this is the only vehicle left for this. And I think there's worth having discussion, but I would be remiss to not acknowledge the fiscal constraints that the state is being put forth this year. But acknowledge that for the purpose of having to needing to carry forward what needs to be done, that this is potentially the measure that should be considered. But if I can make an amendment. So members, I wanna adopt the HD1 for 2057. I'm gonna blank the appropriation amounts as put forth in the bill. They're asking for $10 million, and I'll note that in the committee report. But I do want to challenge the counties and the state folks as we put forth this measure that the funding is contingent on matching funds. So if they are needing 10 million, that either the county and the state shall work on contingent matching funds to move this proposal forward. And if there's political will and way as to the share that is needed at the county, I will challenge them to put forth that kind of funding. So seeing that, members, any questions, comments, or concerns?
Chair.
Thanks for that.
Rep. Chica?
Thank you for those comments, Chair. Yeah, I was surprised to see this measure. While I appreciate the intent, I agree with your comments that the timing is it's just, I think, not right now because of all of the priorities that we're seeking to advance with the limited resources and the budget constraints that we have. And so, and it also doesn't include the other counties. So I think if it was a statewide priority, then we should be looking at
what we're doing to anyway statewide, but for those reasons I'll be voting with reservation.
Thank you. Rep. Cochran.
No, I just wanted to thank you for calling out the counties to pitch in too, cause I agree.
Right, and I wanna acknowledge that by constitution, the county has the right to tax property, so as they explore different measures to make work their budgets, they can always look to tax folks correctly on that. So seeing no further deliberation, Vice Chair for the vote, please.
Voting on HB 2057, the recommendation is to pass with amendments, noting Rep. La Chica's reservations. Any other reservations? Any no votes? The recommendation is adopted.
Okay, members, thank you. So for this measure and the next subsequent two, right there, we're all trying to acknowledge several different things that can be done to make our roads safer. And I just wanna thank the committee because as fun as this work can be, it is also, I'd be remiss to acknowledge how hard it can be. Given what we experienced in the interim and what has come forth before this committee, it's not always roses and butterflies. So I wanna thank you folks for working with the committee on entertaining these different measures. And I want to just acknowledge the testimony that came before the committee and the ohana that bared their heart, I think, to this committee, because trying to acknowledge that what we have is obviously not working. So as we looked at different measures, not just today, but throughout the last several weeks, I think we're trying to find a path forward that doesn't circumvent what we're trying to accomplish, because we can change every single law without enforcement, but I think it's also imperative on us to try to find ways to acknowledge how the law can be written and drafted better. So members, I just want, okay, so for this one, I want to adopt the HD1 and HB 2589. I want to note in the committee report, the current law is amended in 2024 allows for forfeiture of the vehicle in the third offense within 5 years. And I think for the next committee that if they could, so noting that they allow forfeiture of a vehicle in the third offense within 5 years, I'd like to amend that our office can change that upon the second offense for the intent of forfeiture. Then I wanna clarify that negligent homicide in the first degree will include situations where a person causes death of another while operating a vehicle in a negligent manner and driving without a valid license pursuant to section 286-102. Second, an amendment that establishes a violation under new subsection, there will be a Class B felony with an escalation to Class A felony when the person has 2 or more prior convictions for driving without a valid license within 5 years. Thirdly, I want to add an amendment to conform language to define what constitutes the prior conviction for driving without a valid license to ensure consistency of existing statutory definitions and sentencing provisions. I'll add a saving clause in this measure and acknowledge that the original bill as drafted was to honor Sarah, but for further amendments as we put forth, I'd like to add language to have it be in honor of Quali Denny Green. And then HMS will affect the effective date and do technical amendments for clarity, consistency, and style. Members, any questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote.
Voting on HB 2589, the recommendation is to pass with amendments. Are there any reservations? Any no votes? The recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members. On our next agenda item before us, HB 2417 relating to administrative license revocation. I like to adopt the HD1. This was a placeholder because as we were getting close to the deadline, we could not draft the language we needed to, but as we've worked in the last several weeks to get to where we're at, that's why I'm pulling this one today. So for this one, I want to adopt the HD1 and adopt the prosecutor's requested amendments, which largely closes a loophole that has been put onto the judiciary to prove the intent. So adopting the prosecutor's requested amendments as such puts forth the driver's license revocation process inherently upon the defendant, no longer the judiciary, as put forth in the HD1 amendments. Largely as we're trying to make sure folks stay off of our roadways of getting their driver's license. There are probably also licensed drivers who have exploited different loopholes in our systems to get it back. So this is an effective way for us to close those loopholes and make our roads just that much safer, I believe. And so also doing tech amendments for clarity, consistency, and style with the proposed HD1 and HMSO affecting effective date. Members, questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote, please.
Voting on HB 2417, the recommendation is to pass with amendments. Are there any reservations? Any no votes? The recommendation is adopted.
Okay, thank you, members. On this next one, HB 2020 relating to renewal of driver's license, I'd like to adopt the HD1. In the committee report, I would like Department of Transportation to further clarify for the next committee, how will the intent to operate a motor vehicle in a certain county be verified? Members, this measure got significant discussion within the last several weeks of both opposition and support. And I wanna acknowledge the Department of Transportation of trying to get creative of addressing, I think, the different problems that we are facing as a state. But I also wanna acknowledge, I'm trying to find a way that we don't penalize the 90% of folks who follow the law safely and are never the ones that are breaking the law. So with this measure, members, I wanna make this applicable to only a person who has received a moving violation or traffic infraction in a period of 5 years before the renewal, and allow DOT that implementation of a system to implement at random mechanism for the retesting of applicants, and then add a reporting requirement to the legislature, tech amendments for clarity, consistency, and style, and HMSO effective date. Members, questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote.
Voting on HB 2020, the recommendation is to pass with amendments. Are there any reservations? Any no vote? Reservations for Rep. Muraoka? Any no votes? The recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members. Our next agenda item, HB 2026, relating to transportation. Members, for this one, I want to adopt the HTA recommended amendments from and to or. I will take the language as put forth as well to make it applicable for all buses. Subsection A, paragraph 1, I'd like to delete that part. And I'm gonna keep the blank fines as proposed, but I wanna recommend in a committee report for the next committee if they could consider the first violation be $250, the second be $500, and the third $1,000. Members, that this was a measure that was passed in my first year in office, and I acknowledge the intent, but I think as we've tried to look at how this has been enforced, it hasn't been enforceable. So I want to acknowledge it's not our intent to penalize these motorists that are following the speed limit, but acknowledging larger vehicles do pose a significant safety risk to vehicles on our roadways should they engage in excessive speeding. And so we're just trying to allow flowing traffic to move much more safely. Acknowledging this is applicable to only counties of 500,000 or more and roadways that are 3 or more lanes in the same travel, which is largely our large arteries, our main highways and freeways. So with that, members, any questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote, please.
Voting on HB 2026, the recommendation is to pass with amendments. Are there any reservations? Any no votes? The recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members. HB 2378 relating to transportation. I want to thank the discussion we had, I think, within the committee on this measure. This is the first time we've seen this proposal before us. But I would be remiss to not acknowledge, I have grave concerns, I think, after the line of questioning and how it's moved. But I want to acknowledge there's still a Senate vehicle that is moving. So for that, I'm gonna defer the House measure as proposed and ask, should the Senate vehicle cross over into our House chamber, if the proponents and supporters of this measure take the time to meet with the committee members in the next several weeks to try to answer some questions that have arisen, and should then we come before the Senate bill to come before the House committee, we can be a little bit more prepared. Okay, so for the next agenda item, members, HB 1742, HD 1 relating to housing. Members, I wanna adopt the HD 2 on this measure, and I just wanna clarify I've had prior concurrence for the amendments put forth. I wanna delete the subsection paragraph as it pertains to the HOAs, that this shall be allowed, that HOAs can do a prohibition and restriction for the purpose of carrying out this act. I also wanna amend HB 1742 by taking section 3 of HB 1719 HD 1 and putting it to HB 1742 and define manufactured home as a manufacturing home means a dwelling unit constructed in compliance with Title 24 Code of Federal Regulations, Part 3280, that is installed on a permanent foundation and connected to utilities. This will allow it to be taxable real estate as put forth to make sure it's consistent with also county regulation and also the purpose of potentially carrying out a mortgage of the construction of a home like this. And also for the purpose of this section, the installation of these homes must be manufactured in Hawaii or procured by a state approved distributor. I wanna it already has an effective date, but for the tech amendments put forth, we'll do tech amendments for clarity, consistency, and style. Members, questions, comments, or concerns?
Sure.
Rep. Cochran.
The last sentence you said must be manufactured in Hawaii, was that a or was that a and?
No, or
Can you-
procured by a state approved distributor.
Okay,
Yeah, and so I wanna acknowledge there's a working group moving forth on something similar to small homes, container homes. And I think this is a viable path forward as we look to address different mechanisms of housing, but I would not want to necessarily put forth things that are just coming in from all places, right? I wanna acknowledge our building code has done, as and restrictive as it could be at times, also has been the reason we have safety in some places.
Yeah, of course,
So,
safety and quality,
yes.
safety for the people, yes, I
Yeah.
agree, thank you so much for this.
So that's a HD2. Members, any further questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote, please.
Voting on HB 1742 HD1, the recommendation is to pass with amendments. Are there any reservations? Any no votes? The recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members. HB 2377 related to transportation. I wanna adopt the HD1 for this one, tech amendments for clarity, consistency, and style. I'm gonna blank the lapse proposed amount and note in the committee report the ask of 12 million. I think that needs further deliberation, and so for that, blanking it and each amendment with effective date. Members, questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote, please.
Voting on HB 2337, the recommendation is to pass with amendments. Are there any reservations? Any no votes? The recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members. We are adjourned. I'll see you at crossover.